OPEC are meeting in the Austrian capital, Vienna. They're expected to decide whether they will change the levels of production. An oversupply has reduced the price of oil, cutting revenues for the OPEC members. The bloc accounts for a third of the world's oil supplies. Jaafar Altaie is the managing director of the Manar Energy Group, a consultancy based in the United Arab Emirates. He joins us live from Abu Dhabi. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. How's this going to play out? What's the outcome going to be?
Thank you very much for having me. I think for the meeting itself, I don't expect the meeting to produce any outcome as such. I think the meeting is more about making the right statements. A lot of the discussions have already taken place or will take place. I think there are several issues to consider. The meeting indicates that oil is becoming less political. The oil industry seems to be going on a diet. Asia is a more significant player, both as a principal buyer and a technical service provider. And I think some harmony exists within OPEC, but certain differences happen. And on the economic front, also, there's several impacts.
Okay, what are those impacts? I mean, for the consumer, low oil price was beneficial, but other than that, I mean, who's coming out on top here?
Well, the high-income OPEC countries obviously have the cushion of savings, and the low-income OPEC countries obviously have to build mounting deficits. So there's this or this. There's also this. There's going to be also layoffs in the services side of the oil industry and among the private oil companies themselves, and that's going to have repercussions on unemployment. And I think another key effect is the role of technology is going to benefit, because the cost-reducing technologies are going to be much more in demand and much more effective tool, both for the government side and for the private sector side to be more efficient.
Do you think that the price is going to keep sliding, though? I mean, what's the decision as far as that is concerned? And if it does, I mean, surely that's going to have long-term impacts on the world economy, dire ones.
Absolutely. I mean, if you remember the days of the late 90s, it slid down to $10 a barrel. That shows you how uncertain any forecast on the price is. And I don't believe any forecast that I hear. We simply don't know. However, high prices have always been dependent on geopolitical shocks. And the issue on Iraq, if you look at Iraq, for example, and the fragility with ISIS, that's an example of how the price could suddenly shoot up if there is attacks in Iraq. But all other indicators, and there's, for example, very little resistance to things like the return of Iran. It seems that OPEC is ready to accommodate that. That's certain to have a downward effect on price. And I think the way to balance low prices is for economies to be more creative and have a more diversified economy. And if economies don't have a more diversified economy, definitely low prices are going to impact global demand. Similarly, excessive high prices are going to be bad for the economy as well. So I think that the key message is that economies have to go on a diet and be more efficient generally to survive this.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your thoughts, Jaafar Altaie, before the meeting. Allegations made to Al-Jazeera suggest